Hey everyone, ready to dive into something fascinating?
Absolutely.
Today we're exploring 12 steps to ADHD empowerment.
Oh, interesting.
And this book, forget everything you think you know about typical ADHD management.
Okay.
This flips the script.
Interesting.
We're talking about harnessing the power of ADHD, not fixing it.
Yeah, what's so intriguing about this source is that the premise is that ADHD is essentially a different operating system,
Right.
not a deficit, right?
Like everyone's brain is running software,
Yeah.
but some of us have a different version.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to install a whole new OS,
Right.
what if we learn to optimize the one we have?
Exactly. And that's where this 12-step framework comes in.
Oh, okay.
You might recognize it from other contexts.
Right.
But the application to ADHD is what's really unique here.
So step one,
Yeah.
this isn't about admitting powerlessness over life,
Right.
but over focus, right?
Yes.
Which feels like a totally different take.
It is. The source argues that forcing an ADHD brain to conform to traditional focus strategies
Right.
is counterproductive.
Yeah.
Instead, it's about recognizing your natural tendencies and finding tools that work with them.
It's like trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole.
Exactly.
You're going to get frustrated and the peg isn't going to change shape.
Precisely. And that's where step 2 gets really interesting. It talks about ADHD as a higher power.
Ooh.
Now, before anyone thinks we're getting mystical here,
Right.
this isn't about religion.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the incredible power that comes with ADHD traits.
That hyperfocus.
Yes.
The bursts of energy and creativity.
Exactly.
What if those aren't things to suppress, but to leverage?
The source argues that reframing these traits as potential strengths is crucial.
Okay.
For example, that squirrel moment everyone jokes about could be reframed as the ability to rapidly generate ideas.
So instead of constantly feeling like you're fighting your own brain, it's about making a conscious choice to design your life around how it works best.
Absolutely.
That's step 3.
Absolutely. It's about working with your ADHD, not against it.
Okay.
The book gives an example of a woman who realized her cluttered desk was actually a highly efficient organizational system for her brain.
Wow.
Once she stopped trying to force herself to have a clear desk, her productivity soared.
That's such a good point. Sometimes those things we perceive as weaknesses are actually strengths in disguise.
Right.
It reminds me of the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
But how do we actually figure out what works best for us?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's where step 4 comes in.
Exactly. Step 4 emphasizes self-awareness.
Okay.
It encourages you to pay attention to your energy levels,
Okay.
your emotional responses,
Yeah.
and when you're most productive throughout the day.
So like actually tracking when those squirrel moments lead to brilliant ideas versus when they completely derail you.
Yes. It's about identifying patterns so you can anticipate and manage them. For
Okay.
example, if you know you're prone to distraction in the afternoon, maybe that's not the best time to tackle your most challenging tasks.
Okay, so we're getting real with ourselves,
Yep.
understanding our patterns.
Yes.
But then what?
Yeah.
Do we just go it alone with all this newfound self-awareness? Not at all.
No, not at all.
What's step 5?
Step 5 encourages us to share our experiences with someone we trust.
Oh.
It's about breaking down that sense of isolation that many people with ADHD experience.
Right.
Talking about it can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
Plus, it helps others understand how to support you better.
Which leads perfectly into step 6.
Yeah.
This is where we shift from understanding ourselves to taking action.
Exactly. And the source offers some really practical tools here.
Okay.
One that stood out to me was the concept of time boxing
Okay.
for procrastination.
Okay.
Instead of seeing it as this enemy,
Right.
you allocate a specific amount of time for it.
Wait, so you're actually scheduling time to procrastinate. Tell me more.
It sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but the book gives an example of a writer who would put off starting projects.
Right.
He started scheduling 1 hour each day to procrastinate,
Okay.
meaning he could do whatever he wanted during that hour.
Okay.
The catch: once that hour was up,
Yeah.
he had to sit down and write.
And it worked.
He found that by acknowledging that procrastination was part of his process,
Yeah.
he actually procrastinated less overall
Really?
because he knew he had that designated time. Plus, once he sat down to write, he often found himself getting into a flow state much faster.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It totally reframes procrastination as this thing to be feared to something you can actually work with.
And that ties into step 7, which is about building structures of support.
Okay.
The source argues that traditional advice, like just ask for help,
Right.
isn't always enough.
Yeah.
It's about creating systems that work for how your brain operates.
So give me an example. What kind of structure are we talking about?
The book gave a really compelling example of a student who struggled with time management.
Okay.
He realized that traditional calendars weren't working for him
Right.
because they felt too rigid and overwhelming.
Okay.
So he created his own system using a whiteboard and sticky notes.
Oh, nice.
Each morning, he'd write down his top 3 priorities on the whiteboard
Okay.
and then break those down into smaller tasks on sticky notes.
Okay.
As he completed each task, he'd move the sticky note to a done section.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's visual, it's flexible, and it provides a sense of accomplishment as you move those sticky notes around. It's
Right.
like gamifying your to-do list.
Exactly. And because it was his own system,
Right.
tailored to his specific needs,
Yeah.
he was more likely to stick with it.
Okay, so we're understanding ourselves,
Yeah.
taking action, building supportive structures.
Yes.
But what about when inevitably ADHD does impact our relationships or responsibilities?
Sure.
I feel like that's a big piece of this puzzle.
You're absolutely right. And that's where steps 8 and 9 come in.
Okay.
Instead of brushing those impacts under the rug,
Right.
these steps encourage us to acknowledge them and take responsibility.
So it's not just about apologizing for mistakes,
Right.
but actively working to make amends.
Right. Step 8 is about having those sometimes difficult conversations
Oh.
with people we may have let down.
Yeah.
While step 9 is about taking concrete actions to repair the situation.
So if someone with ADHD is constantly late,
Right.
step 8 would be acknowledging the impact of that lateness on others.
Exactly.
And step 9 would be brainstorming strategies to improve their time management.
Exactly. And those strategies might look different for everyone.
Right.
For some, it might be setting multiple alarms or using visual timers.
Okay.
For others, it might be building in extra time for travel or being upfront about potential delays.
Right.
The key is to find what works
Right.
and be willing to put in the effort to make things right.
It's about turning those oops moments into opportunities for growth,
Yeah.
both personally and in our relationships.
Absolutely.
So how do we ensure these changes stick?
That's where step 10 steps in, encouraging us to be vigilant.
Vigilante about our ADHD sounds intense.
Not quite.
Okay.
It's about building in regular check-ins with ourselves
Okay.
and with those we trust
Right.
about how we're doing.
Yeah.
Are we slipping back into old patterns?
Yeah.
Are those support structures still working?
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that managing ADHD is an ongoing process.
So it's not a one-time fix,
Right.
but a lifelong commitment to
Yeah.
learning and adapting.
Exactly. And that leads us to step 11,
Okay.
which really resonated with me.
Okay.
It's about embracing the journey of self-discovery.
Okay. Unpack that for me.
Well, it's easy to get caught up in the fixing mindset,
Right.
trying to find the one magic solution that will make everything better.
Right.
But ADHD is complex,
Yeah.
and what works might change over time
Right.
or in different settings.
So it's about becoming your own expert.
Yes, being curious about your own experiences,
Okay.
trying new strategies,
Yeah.
and learning what works best for you in different situations.
Right.
It's like having a superpower,
Okay.
but the instruction manual is constantly being updated.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So where does step 12 fit into all of this?
Step 12 is about taking all that hard-won wisdom,
Yeah.
all those aha moments,
Right.
and sharing them with others.
Paying it forward.
Exactly. It could be mentoring someone newly diagnosed,
Yeah. Oh,
sharing your story online,
Yeah.
or even just being open about your own experiences with friends and family.
Because the more we talk about ADHD,
Right.
the less stigma there is, and the more we realize we're not alone in this journey.
Absolutely. Plus, sharing our experiences helps us solidify our own understanding and commitment to these principles.
You know what struck me throughout this entire deep dive
Yeah.
is how much this framework reframes ADHD from a limitation to a source of potential.
Yeah.
It's really empowering.
It is. And it reminds us that there's no one right way to experience the world.
Right.
Our differences are what make us interesting.
Yeah.
And when we learn to embrace them, amazing things can happen.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on ADHD.
Yeah.
And the power of understanding how our brains work.
Me too. It's a great reminder that even though ADHD might present unique challenges,
Yeah.
it also comes with unique strengths.
And maybe, just
Yeah.
maybe, those challenges are what fuel those very strengths.
Right.
Something to ponder. Right.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
To everyone listening, remember, your brain is your own.
Yes.
And there's power in understanding how it works best for you.
Absolutely.
Until next time.